Imagine waking up inside a wildly steamy fantasy novel, only to find out you are cursed to remain completely pure. Our female lead is a hardcore romance fan who transmigrates into her favorite historical story. She expects a dream life, but gets hit with a devastating twist. If she does anything intimate, a lethal curse will destroy her. To survive, she has to play matchmaker for the novel's original second male lead. But there is a massive problem. The man she is supposed to help is an incredibly muscular, silver-haired beast with intense blue eyes, and he is completely obsessed with her. How do you survive a ferociously hot, possessive man when giving into temptation will trigger a deadly curse? This is Land of Abstinence. The male protagonist gasps for breath, his feet pounding desperately on the cold stone path. He is clearly exhausted, stumbling as he flees. Behind him, an angry mob armed with farming tools gives chase, their furious shouts echoing through the alleyways. They scream for his capture, yelling at each other to go after the filthy outcast and bring him down. He darts around a corner, hoping for a moment's reprieve, but stops dead in his tracks. A man is waiting there, grimly raising a heavy tool. It is an ambush. He is trapped. With a resounding impact, the strike finds its mark. A flare of strange energy erupts from the blow, and the male protagonist cries out as he crashes onto the cold stone. He glares up from the ground, clutching his wounded arm in agony. His attacker, however, points a trembling finger and screams a wild accusation, claiming he was subjected to an inappropriate advance. The mob's rage reignites, their shouts echoing the baseless lie. They condemn the cursed one, their faces twisted with disgust, believing he harbors foul and dishonorable intentions. A single tear escapes the male protagonist's eye, his face a mask of utter desperation as the mob closes in. Their voices unite, condemning him as something less than human. Their collective rage builds into a single, chilling demand to seal his fate. A vicious strike lands with blinding force, and his world explodes in a chaotic burst of red and black as he is sent flying from the ledge. The chaos fades, replaced by a brilliant blue sky where butterflies dance over a tranquil pavilion. But this sudden peace is shattered by desperate gasps for air from the water below. The male protagonist gasps for air, splashing through a serene pond filled with lily pads. A surge of panic grips him as he clutches his arm, realizing the bandages have come loose. He knows he must cover them again, immediately. He cannot let anyone see the affliction. Pulling his hood low to hide his face, he spots a tree and decides to retreat there. But then, his intense blue eye lands on a breathtaking sight. The female protagonist floats amongst the vibrant lotus flowers, her expression peaceful, yet filled with a deep sorrow. The world goes silent for the male protagonist as he gazes at the woman in the water, completely mesmerized. He wonders if he has ever seen anyone so beautiful. Drawn closer, he wades through the lotus flowers and mistakes her for the priestess, but quickly realizes her hair is the wrong color. Her weary eyes flutter open and meet his. "Why did you think I was the priestess?" she asks softly. Startled, he stammers an explanation about it being the day of healing, a day the priestess is usually present, and offers a sincere apology. A sudden realization dawns on her, and her eyes widen. The female protagonist's expression softens with understanding. "Right. Today is the day of healing," she says gently, asking if he is perhaps seeking the priestess's help. The male protagonist freezes, clutching his bandaged arm as he turns away. "No, he trails off. A painful, red-tinted memory rushes over him, bringing back cruel voices shouting for him to be thrown away. Shame washes over him as he bows his head low in the water, whispering a desperate apology. The woman watches him, her compassion shifting to complete shock. Her mind goes blank. The female protagonist's shock gives way to a flood of memories. As an avid reader, she knows the common tropes all too well, where a tragic end in one world leads to a new life in another. She recalls the disorienting feeling of waking up submerged in water, the sight of an ornate palace, and the dawning, overwhelming realization. "I am inside a story," she thought, her heart pounding. Lost and unsure, her only instinct was to play the part of a character. But then she met his gaze, and his single eye, a brilliant blue deeper than any lake, sea, or sky, captivated her completely. Her heart stills. She sees him as a beautiful person, his silver hair scattering like clouds across the brilliant blue of his eye. But a closer look reveals a harsh reality. His nutrition is poor, his skin inflamed and irritated. He mentioned it was the day of healing, but his condition contradicts his words. She begins, hesitant but determined. Could I take a look under your cloak? She extends her hand in a gesture of help. The world suddenly fractures into a glitching error. Before she can process the warning, he whips around and seizes her wrist. Get away, his voice cracks with desperation, shouting that he only came for scraps of food. When the female protagonist insists she was only worried, he snarls, calling it all lies. The world around them glitches, mirroring his fractured state. He accuses her of wanting to cause him harm, his voice full of pain as he reminds her that she was afraid to even touch him before. Standing in the water, she feels helpless. To prove her sincerity, she must touch him, but his intense blue eye stops her. The male protagonist says touching is not enough, claiming they must be able to match. What? Her question hangs in the air, unfinished. With a sudden, forceful tug, the male protagonist pulls her forward. She loses her footing in the water and stumbles directly into his arms. Her mind goes blank. His silver hair brushes against her cheek, his face so close she can see the surprised blush spreading across his skin. He looks just as stunned as she feels. Before either can react, the world fractures. Reality dissolves into a cascade of glitching text and chaotic static. A system window materializes, its message stark, announcing a massive error has been detected and a system reboot has been initiated. In the sun-dappled water, she presses closer, her lips finding the warm skin of his neck. A deep blush spreads across his face as he stands frozen in the pond. She notices a subtle shift in his demeanor, realizing he is no longer agitated. She pulls back slightly, her expression thoughtful as he covers his mouth, completely flustered. A wild idea crosses her mind, wondering if this entire world could be operating on the more mature themes of the novels she once loved. Shaking her head, she dismisses the thought, her expression hardening with resolve. She asks softly if he now believes she holds no hostility towards him. A deep blush still on his face, he stammers an incoherent reply. But then, his demeanor shifts entirely. A dark, haunted memory flashes in his piercing blue eye. Before she can react, he lunges forward, pulling her into a desperate, tight embrace against the wall. A soft green light envelopes her as she stares up at him, a single tear of pure shock tracing a path down her cheek. Just as quickly, he releases her, turns his back, and flees, leaving her utterly bewildered. Standing in the sunlit pond, the man with silver hair looks down at her, his expression tight with a desperate plea. He asks her, if she truly has no ill intent, to please keep their meeting a secret. Without waiting for a reply, he turns and splashes away through the water lilies. Wait, hold on, she calls out, but he disappears from sight. She stands alone, stunned and dripping. A thought bubbles up in her mind. Is he seriously leaving after stealing a kiss? Then, she immediately corrects herself with a frustrated sigh. No, wait, I am the one who kissed him. Her thoughts are cut short by the sound of voices nearby. As she listens, she realizes he was being chased. The female protagonist wanders through a town, her eyes wide with wonder. The streets bustle with life, and the immaculate buildings stand against a brilliant blue sky. It is a picture-perfect place, but as a vendor offers a gleaming red apple, a strange feeling prickles her skin. Something feels unnatural. She wonders why everything is so spotless. Her thought is cut short as a person carrying a large basket collides with her, sending them both staggering. Ah, sorry, the person exclaims, bowing low as she helps gather the fallen white cloths from the stone street. The person who bumped into her offers a polite thank you, startling the female protagonist, who had not even noticed them. Her gaze drifts across the strange, pristine town. Everything is so white, she thinks, a sense of unease creeping in. Everyone is dressed in similar, spotless clothing. Stranger still, she realizes there are only young, healthy people around. The perfect scene feels deeply wrong. As she walks on, her mind flashes back to the scarred man. She remembers his heavily injured arm and his tattered, dirt-stained clothes. Perhaps they were originally white, too. A question forms in the female protagonist's mind, wondering what exactly this day of healing is. The name feels oddly familiar, pulling at the edge of her memory. Suddenly, a deep, resonant sound from a conch shell echoes through the town square. Her eyes widen in stark realization. That is it, she thinks, the memory clicking into place. A radiant woman with golden hair appears before the reverent crowd, who murmur her title, the High Priestess. With a serene smile, she expresses her joy at seeing everyone looking so healthy. Her relief, she announces, comes from knowing they have all remained pure and untainted. The High Priestess's words hang in the air. Untainted, the female protagonist stares, utterly baffled. The crowd's reverent calm suddenly shatters. Desperate cries erupt, people clamoring for the High Priestess, begging her to mend their pained bodies. Their pleas become a chaotic, agonized roar. A sharp voice cuts through the noise, commanding enough. An imposing man with fiery red hair and piercing golden eyes commands their attention. It is Emperor Sonorak. He reminds them all of the unbending rule, stating that only those who have remained pure may receive healing in this place. Emperor Sonorak proudly presents the Empire's one and only High Priestess, Heroine. He declares that through her divine power, she will grant a paradise free from pain. A man with a disfigured arm kneels before her, desperately proclaiming his lifelong purity and pleading for help. Her voice is soft as she acknowledges his suffering. Placing a hand on his arm, a brilliant golden light washes over him. The man stares in disbelief at his perfectly restored limb, tears of joy streaming down his face. Hope ignites the crowd as their cries erupt. The crowd surges forward, a sea of desperate hands reaching for the High Priestess Heroine. Cries of please, me too, echo through the grand hall. The female protagonist watches, a shocking realization dawning on her. Heroine heals any ailment once a week, with no side effects. No wonder everyone worships her. In a world like this, she thinks, there is no need for doctors. Suddenly, Heroine stumbles, utterly drained. Emperor Sonorak steps in immediately. That is enough, he commands, his voice sharp. Today's session ends here. As guards pull a pleading man away, the Emperor holds Heroine close. He promises the crowd that their suffering will end, but for today, Heroine can endure no more. Leaning into Emperor Sonorak's embrace, High Priestess Heroine turns to the hopeful crowd. A divine light surrounds her as she proclaims her power to heal all ailments. A gift from the heavens she is overjoyed to share. Her tone then shifts, becoming solemn. She issues a stark warning, stating that if anyone succumbs to earthly desires, they will receive a curse that even her divine power cannot mend. She urges them to keep their hearts pure. For the female protagonist, the words land with devastating force. A horrifying realization dawns, draining the color from her face. A man's voice echoes, speaking of a pure body and a faithful heart. He whispers Heroine's name before pulling her into an embrace. Their lips meet in a deep, passionate kiss beneath a canopy of flowers, the sunlight casting a golden glow over the romantic scene. Watching from a distance, the female protagonist flushes a deep red, her eyes wide with shock. She covers her mouth, her mind reeling. Were they not warned that such intimate acts would trigger a terrible affliction? A sharp, cracking sound seems to break the air. A soft smile graces the priestess's lips as she agrees with his majesty. Watching from a gilded balcony, the female protagonist lets out a quiet breath. It is a relief to see how much his majesty cherishes the priestess. She clutches her chest, realizing the sharp pain has finally subsided. But a new anxiety takes its place, as it is not her turn yet, and the palace gates will be closing soon. As a royal figure walks past with heavy steps, another woman asks if they should head inside, and they turn to leave the grand hall. A man with his hair tied back bids Heroine goodnight, telling her to rest as he prepares to leave. Before he can go, she reaches out, grabbing his sleeve and pulling him back into the room. She presses her lips to his in a sudden, fervent kiss. He stumbles back in shock, his body weakening as he collapses onto the floor. What is this? He gasps, a strange heat spreading through him. Heroine looks down with a determined gaze, gently letting her garments slip as she makes her intentions clear. I will just borrow you a little, Heroine decides, moving with undeniable purpose. She settles over him, initiating a steady, overwhelming closeness that leaves him breathless. His body tenses, completely at her mercy as a burning flush spreads across his skin. Heroine, he pants, his voice breaking as he pleads for her to be gentle. But she remains in control, her focus absolute. His mind goes blank, lost in the intense union she draws him into, every desperate breath a testament to her intoxicating power over his senses. But then, a sharp, shattering sound cuts through the haze as reality crashes down. Her eyes snap open, wide with panic and brimming with tears. The chamber door flies open, revealing a stunned visitor. With a choked cry, she pulls hastily away from her companion, bowing deeply. Sorry, she stammers, mortified as the man in the doorway freezes, taking in the compromising scene. A royal guard bows low to the ground, apologizing profusely. He stammers that he did not realize the priestess was busy and was only following His Majesty's orders to check on her. From behind a screen, the man she was just with scoffs, a deep blush still coloring his cheeks. He dismisses the guard as useless for being so easily overwhelmed. How can someone with less stamina than him, the one being guarded, possibly protect anyone? The priestess simply hums, moving with an ethereal grace. She glides to the door and looks down at the recovering guard, offering a gentle smile. Are you feeling a little better? She asks softly. The guard stays kneeling on the floor, his face completely flushed as he stares, captivated. He can only stammer out a single name, Heroine. In response, she lets out a series of breathless sighs, her body trembling with overwhelming sensation. Her outer garments slip slightly, and a pure, warm light begins to glow from her touch, pulsing with intensity. After a final, shuddering gasp, she catches her breath. An alluring smile spreads across her face as she looks directly at him. Hey, she asks, her voice low, are you merely going to stand there? A wave of heat crashes over the royal guard as they draw impossibly close. As the female protagonist takes in the bustling scene, a vendor's voice booms through the courtyard. He cheerfully offers the capital's specialty, balled rice balls, free for everyone to celebrate Healing Day. Her eyes widen in mild surprise at the generous offer. The air hums with the conversations of hopeful citizens discussing the wonders of this place, a paradise where all ailments are remedied. She overhears whispers about the king's deep affection for the priestess, a detail that brings a faint blush to her cheeks. Pushing aside the complex thoughts swirling in her mind, she decides on a simple course of action, which is to first eat. A cold confusion washes over the female protagonist as the crowd shifts around her, seemingly blind to her presence. She feels like a phantom, unseen and unheard. Finally reaching the vendor, she timidly asks for a rice ball. The man jolts in shock, his bald head miraculously sprouting a full mane of silver hair. Goodness, you scared me so much my hair grew out, he cries, a bashful blush creeping up his cheeks. She stands frozen, holding the food he offers, a single thought echoing in her mind. Is her presence truly that insignificant? The vendor cheerfully remarks that Healing Day can be held safely, and she agrees with a quiet yes. But her peace is shattered by a cruel whisper cutting through the crowd, calling someone filthy trash. The ugly words strike her, and a chilling thought surfaces, wondering if this is a society with a harsh caste system. The idea feels far too cruel. A sudden, violent vision flashes in her mind. She sees a figure, ostracized, discarding food into the dirt. Immediately, someone else falls upon the scraps, devouring them with a desperate, crunching hunger that echoes with profound sorrow. The female protagonist stands in stunned silence, watching as two men dig a hole to bury a pile of perfectly good food. Unable to stomach the waste, she approaches them. Hey, it looks usable, why bury it? She asks, her voice trembling slightly. The men pause their work, turning to her with condescending looks. Miss, are you an outsider? One asks, as if the answer is obvious. He explains they bury it because the ragged fools kept stealing it. The atmosphere shifts, the world around them bleeding into a nightmarish red. Their faces contort with pure hatred as they call these people pests and insects, creatures that need to be swiftly eradicated. The men's vile logic hangs in the air. They believe the only solution is to starve these people, since eliminating them is an endless task. As their words echo, a sickening realization crashes over the female protagonist. She clamps a hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. By rag you mean that person, right? She thinks, her mind reeling. As the sun sets, casting a sorrowful glow over the city, she hides herself away, curled into a small, miserable ball. A heavy regret settles in her heart. No wonder they looked like they were being chased, she realizes with a pang of guilt. I should have grabbed them and asked properly. A heavy weight settles on the female protagonist as she considers the villagers' cruelty. It must be mentally exhausting, she realizes, but self-doubt immediately follows. How can someone like her, who once ran away from her own duties, even consider getting involved? Still, a new resolve takes hold. She wants to understand what is truly happening here. She walks to the edge of a dense field, framing the landscape with her hands as she wonders where to even start. I wish they would just fall right in front of me, she murmurs, focusing on a spot in the distance. She pauses. Through her fingers, she sees him, the male protagonist, sitting right where she was looking. The male protagonist turns slightly, his single blue eye sharp and wary under a dark hood. As the female protagonist calls out, asking for just a moment of his time, he springs to his feet. In a flash, he is gone. Stunned, she reaches out to empty air. He ran away. Without a second thought, she plunges into the tall, golden grass after him. "Hey, wait a moment," she yells, her voice filled with desperate confusion. "Please talk to me. Why are you running away?" Panting, she pushes forward, determined to get a single word with him. "Listen to me," the female protagonist cries out, lunging through the tall grass. Her fingers barely manage to grasp the edge of his dark hood. He whips around, his piercing blue eye wide with alarm. In that instant, a strange, unseen force erupts between them, throwing her backward. She lands with a startled gasp in a patch of soft flowers, her robes slipping from her shoulders. A hot blush creeps up her neck as she looks down in horror. What was that just now? She wonders, completely stunned. A wave of weakness washes over her, leaving her unable to move. Mortified, the female protagonist whispers a frantic apology, convinced nothing ever goes right for her. Above her, the male protagonist stands frozen, his single blue eye wide. A deep crimson blush floods his scarred cheek as he covers his mouth in shock. As their gazes lock in the golden light, she sees it clearly for the first time, the subtle marks of an affliction on his skin. This must be the curse, she realizes, her own shock replacing her embarrassment as she understands the true depth of his condition. A memory of the priestess surfaces in the female protagonist's mind, a solemn warning that the curse is permanent for those who give into temptation. Her eyes widen as she stares at him. To be afflicted this badly, she thinks, he must have lived a very colorful life. Suddenly, the male protagonist stammers a mortified apology. She is completely baffled, wondering if he means her. "No," he cries out, his face burning red. "I mean myself." He slams his head against a tree in shame, shouting an apology for his own wayward thoughts. A sharp chime cuts through the air as a glitching window materializes, flashing an ominous message of a synchronization error. Amidst the golden reeds, the female protagonist apologizes, her cheeks flushed as she insists this is not like her. Suddenly, she reaches out, her hand gently cupping his hooded face. His visible eye widens with fear, a tremor running through him. She asks why he is the one saying sorry when he was the victim. He stammers an explanation, clarifying that he did not try to steal any food, it was just lying there. A brief, harsh memory flashes through her mind. She quickly dismisses it, but he pulls back, his expression hardening with suspicion. The female protagonist's eyes widen in disbelief. She asks if he truly does not remember meeting her in the garden. He looks away, confused, admitting that while he was in the capital, he has no memory of her. Her mind reels with indignation. How could he forget? She had so many questions swirling in her head. Just moments ago, but they all fade away. A deeper, more urgent feeling takes over, a profound worry for the man before her. Pushing her confusion aside, she holds out a small rice ball, offering it to him. For now, her only desire is to help. His scarred hands gently take the food. With a soft voice, he thanks her, saying that even though it is their first time meeting, he will shamelessly accept her kindness. The words echo in her mind. She tries to rationalize it, remembering how people in crowds bump right into her, treating her as if she is not even there. But the vivid memory of their intense, accidental closeness returns. How could he possibly forget that moment? A chilling realization forms, showing her presence is unnaturally weak. An uneasy feeling creeps in, a dark sense that she is somewhere she should not be. A terrifying thought flashes through the female protagonist's mind. What if she is not just a bystander? Suddenly, a sharp chime echoes in her head as a glowing blue window materializes before her eyes. It detects a foreign entity and assigns her a role as an extra, with the job of a doctor. Her eyes widen in horror. She knows it is a popular trope to possess minor characters, but this feels humiliating, as if she is just something meant to be swept away. As the system announces it is calling a mission, a cold dread washes over her, leaving her to fear what comes next. In the harsh light of the hospital, a doctor's voice rings out, sharp and angry as he berates a group of younger staff. He questions their very roles, demanding to know who they are to defy his orders. A nurse flinches, her face etched with distress. The female protagonist watches from the side, her own expression tired and worn. She knows this nurse is experienced, not one to make mistakes. A grim thought crosses her mind. To avoid such errors herself, she survives the night shift on just 2 hours of sleep. Weariness pulls at her as she walks down a silent, empty hallway. A nurse's desperate voice cuts through the quiet, shaking the female protagonist awake. She jolts upright in the bunk bed, her mind instantly flashing to an emergency. The nurse, however, looks more fearful than rushed. It is not a crisis, but she needs help adjusting a doctor's order. The female protagonist is confused, knowing she is just an intern. Why would an experienced nurse ask her for this? Still, she takes the tablet offered to her. As she reads the seemingly routine prescription, her eyes widen in horror. This is no simple mistake. It is a retaliatory order, a dangerous misjudgment for a patient in a delicate state. A chill runs down the female protagonist's spine. The professor knowingly prescribed a dangerous medication, a choice that now puts the patient's health at great risk. She looks at the older nurse's desperate face, and it all clicks into place. A nurse cannot modify a doctor's order, leaving her powerless. Wait, the female protagonist says with quiet resolve, I will change the prescription under my ID. The nurse's gratitude is a silent, shining thing. But the moment is shattered by a furious voice calling out to the intern. The professor looms over her, snatching the tablet away as his voice drips with scorn. Are you a doctor? He sneers, asking if a fresh license makes her one. The professor's voice booms, questioning why she dares to interfere when she will be gone in a month anyway. But for the female protagonist, the reason is simple and absolute. They cannot just let patients fade away. Her unspoken defiance twists his face into a mask of fury. Are you saying I wanted to harm someone? In turn, he snarls, his voice dripping with venom. She flinches but does not back down, her gaze unwavering as a tense energy crackles around her. A cruel smile spreads across his lips as he gives her a new, impossible task, telling her to check his patient's vitals every hour. With a final, mocking sneer, the professor declares her a great doctor and walks away, leaving the female protagonist reeling. The injustice of it all churns in her stomach, a bitter sickness rising in her throat. She feels like she is going to be ill. The harsh hospital lights dissolve into a warm, golden haze. Suddenly, she is somewhere else, weak and unsteady. The male protagonist catches her, his strong arm a steady presence. As she leans against him, his scarred face remains impassive. Breaking the silence, he quietly asks if he may leave now. As he prepares to leave, the female protagonist weakly calls out, asking him to wait a moment. Her hand darts out, her fingers gently but firmly grasping the fabric of his dark cloak. She cannot let him go, not when he is her patient, her sole focus in this world. The scene melts into a breathtaking field of gold, bathed in the light of a setting sun. A desperate resolve fills her. Just for a little while, she thinks, until my goal here is decided. Gazing up at him, she makes her plea, begging him to please let her follow him. Sunlight bathes the city as Heroine walks alongside a man with striking white hair. He turns to her, noting with relief that her complexion looks much better today. But from the suffocating darkness of a nearby alley, a tormented figure watches them. Overwhelmed by anguish, a silent scream echoes in their mind. Why will they not look at me? The desperation for aid twists into a venomous curse aimed directly at the smiling woman. If you are not going to heal me, then disappear. The sudden, hateful intent washes over Heroine, and her eyes widen in pure terror. In a blinding flash of violent energy, chaos erupts on the street. The male protagonist moves without a thought, shielding the female protagonist and absorbing the devastating blow meant for her. Crimson arcs through the air as guards shout about an ambush and give chase. She cradles his head, her voice trembling with apologies, but he quietly insists her safety is all that matters. Her gaze fixes on the deep gash now covering his one good eye. He presses a hand to the wound, grimacing as his vision blurs. It is bad, but it was the only way. A memory flickers to life. A healer once gently placed her hand on his chest, her touch bringing a wave of surprise. He was just a commoner, and it was not a healing day. Stay still, she had instructed softly. A golden warmth radiated through him, a feeling so pure and kind. For the first time, he truly understood healing power. The memory fades, and his gaze settles on the female protagonist as she tends to his fresh wound. He murmurs, his voice low, saying she looks familiar. Her hands pause as he mentions the way she treats wounds. Her gaze lingers on the skillfully wrapped bandage, a silent acknowledgement of her own surprising expertise. The silence between them is heavy, broken only by the crackle of the fire. He turns to her, his one good eye intense. He reminds her of her apology, seeing this as an opportunity. The sudden change in his tone makes her wary, but she cautiously agrees to hear him out. First, he says, his voice low and serious, I would like you not to ask me anything about myself. She agrees without hesitation, a wave of relief washing over her. She will not have to feign amnesia or invent a past. Now, she waits for his second request. And second, the male protagonist says, his voice a low rumble, I have some questions for you. Instead of waiting, she begins her own careful inquiry. When did the rash appear? She asks. And does the pain ever change? He offers only brief, guarded answers, his mind a storm of suspicion. She could have used his injury to demand something, yet she only asks about his well-being. Then, may I take a look? She asks softly, reaching a hand toward him. In a blur, his hand shoots out and seizes her bandaged wrist. His grip is firm, stopping her cold. His one blue eye narrows, sharp and intense. He reminds her she agreed to answer questions, not that she had earned his trust. He leans closer, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. He admits he does not know what she is thinking, nor does he care, but he knows one thing. Most people would have run by now. His single blue eye widens, filled with a wild intensity. He tells her that others would not show concern for someone who might turn on them in an instant. He pulls back, his suspicion hardening his expression. Her behavior, he concludes, is completely unnatural. You might be hiding a weapon, he accuses, his voice flat. Turning away, he delivers his final verdict, stating clearly that he does not trust her. His single blue eye scans every detail of her appearance, taking in her flawless skin, her soft, uncalloused hands, and her silky hair. To him, this delicate perfection is a lie, a facade that makes his stomach turn. This, he decides, is exactly why she cannot be trusted. To his complete surprise, she simply nods in agreement. Indeed, she says, her voice steady, you make a valid point. The male protagonist's eye widens, stunned by her calm acceptance. Then, before he can process her words, she grabs her robes and tears them open with a sharp rip. He stares, utterly dumbfounded, as she exposes herself to prove she is unarmed. The female protagonist's voice rings with raw frustration. Look, see this, she demands, her expression a mix of desperation and anger. The male protagonist stares, his single blue eye wide with pure shock. What are you doing? He stammers, completely baffled by her reckless action. She closes the distance between them, her voice rising in a frantic shout. She insists that in a situation like this, he has no luxury to hesitate. What truly matters right now, she cries, is whether the suspicious person before him is someone he can trust. She grabs his hand, pressing it firmly against herself. Now check it. He freezes, a deep blush creeping up his neck as he yells for her to cover up. She silently panics, hoping he understands all he feels is warmth, not a hidden weapon. Her head hangs low as she confesses her ignorance of this village, its people, and its ways. Then, she looks up, a brilliant, determined light filling her eyes. She may not know this world, but she insists she understands her purpose here. His piercing blue eye studies her, a flicker of something new replacing his suspicion. He recalls the cruelty of those who scorned him for his scars. Her strange vulnerability, in contrast, sparks a deep curiosity within him. He leans in closer, his voice low, asking if that is not reason enough. The male protagonist reaches out, his calloused hand gently resting on her dark hair. The tender gesture hangs in the charged air between them. Tien, she whispers, testing the name on her tongue. His single blue eye softens, the hard edges of his suspicion melting away as he confirms that it is his name. Hope blossoms in her chest. Believing she has finally earned his trust, she beams with pride and happily reintroduces herself. His face instantly flushes a deep red as he fumbles to close her robe, his voice cracking as he yells for her to fix her clothes. The female protagonist softly asks the male protagonist to hold out his arm. Her delicate fingers gently take hold of his, unwrapping the crude bandages to reveal the severe injury beneath. Her breath hitches at the sight. A profound sadness washes over her as she takes in his world, a dilapidated house letting in the wind and rain, meals of watery leftovers, and a simple bed of straw. He has been enduring this desolation completely alone. His gaze lowers, a quiet pride in his eyes. He insists he can handle it himself. A wave of frustration washes over the female protagonist as she examines his hand. The skin is raw and deeply infected, a tragic testament to his solitary suffering. Her voice is firm, telling him that wrapping the injury with a filthy bandage is useless. He flinches, surprised by her resolve. Without a second thought, she readies scissors to cut her own clothes for a clean dressing. His gaze is heavy, his single blue eye shadowed by hardship as he asks if she really thinks she can lift the curse. A confident smile forms as she answers, assuring him that she will make it so. His bandaged hand gently closes over hers, a silent plea that halts the sharp scissors. In an act of staggering vulnerability, he unwinds the cloth from his face, revealing the full extent of his scars. His single blue eye holds a deep sadness as he quietly admits this is the first time he has ever let anyone see him this way. Later, her expression is etched with concern as she asks him to rate his pain on a scale. He looks down, explaining that the curse began in his hands and feet. Though once unbearable, he has grown so accustomed to the agony that he now rates it as a mere 2. Her brow furrows as she continues her examination, asking about the pain in his face. He calmly explains his left eye is failing, yet he dismisses the discomfort as bearable. She presses him for a number. His gaze lowers, his single blue eye shadowed as he quietly admits it is about an 8. Her composure shatters completely. "What do you mean it is bearable?" she exclaims, her voice ringing with disbelief and frustration. She gives him a light, exasperated smack. As he winces, she firmly grabs his injured arm, her expression set with fiery resolve. "I see. Let me have this arm as well." He watches her, his thoughts a whirlwind. This woman touches his afflicted skin without flinching, something even he finds difficult. He knows the cruel whispers that follow him, and that he has no reward to offer her. So why is she helping him? The unspoken question hangs between them. "You are a healer?" he finally asks. "Something like that," she replies vaguely. He is stunned, admitting it is his first time meeting one. Her own surprise is evident as she explains how healers became scarce after the priestess consolidated healing into a single weekly event. Her eyes widen in disbelief. She asks if people just leave their injuries until the weekly healing, a concept he never considered neglect. Changing the subject, she gently asks what he did before. A shadow crosses his features as a painful memory of a past conflict surfaces in his mind. He quietly admits he was with the military. She laughs brightly, remarking that it explains his incredible skill in subduing intruders. But her levity is met with a cold silence. He stands, his single blue eye fixed on her, questioning how she can laugh about being attacked. The male protagonist watches her work over the bubbling pot, his single blue eye filled with suspicion. He questions why she boils alcohol, and she patiently explains that distilling it creates a stronger disinfectant. A soft, knowing smile touches her lips as she observes his cautious gaze, as he reminds her of a wary puppy. Her thoughts drift to his curse. She initially suspected a certain type of communicable ailment, but his symptoms do not align. Instead, they feel familiar, like something she researched before. A specific name surfaces, triggering a violent, agonizing memory that crashes over her. A violent memory flashes through the female protagonist's mind, and she stumbles back with a choked gasp. The pot slips from her hands, shattering into 1,000 pieces on the hard ground. In a blur of motion, the male protagonist lunges forward, his arm wrapping securely around her waist to break her fall. She looks up, her face flushing at their sudden closeness. Stammering a thank you, she pulls away. He tells her to rest, questioning the danger in helping. She turns, unable to meet his intense gaze, her mind reeling. To risk himself for her is a gesture she cannot comprehend. A faint blush dusts the female protagonist's cheeks as her heart thumps wildly in her chest. She wonders if it is wrong to feel so thrilled by the encounter. After a peaceful night, she awakens with a contented stretch, remarking on how well she slept. But her expression shifts to confusion as she looks down at her clothes. Her robe is perfectly intact, no signs of the cuts she made for bandages. A glowing blue window materializes before her. It declares that new clothing is a lead's privilege, reminding her that her role is an extra. Her shoulders slump in defeat. The female protagonist's eyes widen with a brilliant realization. If her clothes regenerate every day, then she possesses an endless supply of clean bandages. A bright smile spreads across her face, realizing she actually likes this. Spotting the male protagonist, she hurries over, eager to share her discovery. But as she gestures to her pristine robes, his expression shifts in a flash. His uncovered blue eye glares with sudden, intense fury. "Intruder," he roars. The female protagonist screams in shock, horrified that his sudden hostility is happening all over again. In a room bathed in warm sunlight, the female protagonist freezes. A formidable figure with silver hair and a bandaged eye stands before her, casting a long, intimidating shadow. His voice is cold and suspicious as he demands to know who she is and how she managed to find this secluded village. Suddenly, her heart plummets. His words are hauntingly familiar, triggering a dark memory from the story, a rainy night, and an accusation of being sent to destroy them all. Panic grips her. Looking at the scarred man, she desperately calls out his name, trying to stop him. Desperate, the female protagonist insists she knows what he is afraid of. She is not with the Capitol Guard. She is here to treat the affliction. Her eyes widen as she pleads, begging Tien to remember her. The male protagonist flinches, his world seeming to glitch around him. "What?" he gasps, clutching his head in confusion and pain, dismissing her words as crazy nonsense. She takes a determined step forward, her voice ringing with certainty. She explains that the curse can be treated like an illness and, as proof, reveals they have shared a connection before. With a final, desperate plea, the female protagonist surges forward, closing the space between them in a heartbeat. The world dissolves into a soft, ethereal light as she presses her lips against his. The male protagonist freezes, his blue eye wide with shock. He pulls back just enough to speak, his face flushing a deep crimson. "What are you doing?" he stammers, utterly bewildered by her sudden advance. Ignoring his confusion, she leans in again, deepening their connection with a soft hum, determined to force him to understand, to remember. His hands tighten on her, his mind reeling from the sudden connection. The female protagonist pulls back just enough to speak, her gaze unwavering. She explains that if she were a spy, she would certainly have a hidden weapon to protect herself. With gentle resolve, she takes his bandaged hand and guides it to her own chest, pressing it flat against her heart. "Feel for yourself, Tien," she whispers, her expression earnest. A soft jolt runs through him at the unexpected contact. As proof of their connection, she reminds him that he has already told her his name. The male protagonist's mind is a storm of confusion. He tells her she has just temporarily forgotten him, his single blue eye wide with uncertainty. Leaning closer, the female protagonist holds his face gently, insisting that if she intended any harm, she would avoid touching him at all costs. Her voice catches as she tries to explain her situation, faltering as she mentions the curse. As a warm, golden light envelopes them, his thoughts spiral. He feels her soft skin, her light weight in his arms. He could push her away so easily, yet he does not feel wary. This scent, this familiar warmth, why does it all feel like a memory he cannot quite grasp? A strange sense of familiarity washes over the male protagonist as his hand rests on her. His mind reels, as it has been an eternity since he has felt the warmth of another person. The female protagonist pulls him closer, her long dark hair flowing as she presses herself against him in a tight embrace. A memory sparks within him, realizing he has met her before. The ingrained instinct to check for a weapon flickers, but the sensation of her touch is too overwhelming. He gives in completely, but the tender mood shatters as the male protagonist suddenly shoves her away, stumbling backward. "Are you okay?" he asks, his voice filled with alarm as he turns away, clutching his head in distress. "I am sorry," he stammers. Seeing his panic, Cheon tries to ground him. "Look at me," she demands, her voice sharp with urgency. "What is my name?" He struggles, his voice a weak whisper. "Cheon," he begins. Then, something shifts. A jolt of realization flashes in his bright blue eye as he screams her full name into the room. A wave of mortification washes over the female protagonist. The male protagonist gently places a hand on her shoulder, his touch hesitant. Looking away shyly, she murmurs that he must have realized by now that she is a person whose presence is almost non-existent, someone easy to forget. The male protagonist listens silently, his arms crossed as he processes her words. He finally understands why she told him not to ask about her. In his mind's eye, she appears ethereal, surrounded by a soft, blue light, looking as though she could vanish at any moment. The male protagonist's mind echoes with her devastating words, knowing that anyone who listens to her story will inevitably forget. A dawning horror crystallizes in his thoughts. He wonders if his own affliction has finally spread to his mind. His bandaged hand clenches into a tight, trembling fist. He turns to face Cheon, his gaze piercing and heavy with emotion. Clutching his shoulder, he asks if she still truly believes his curse can be lifted. Cheon stands perfectly still, caught in the weight of his desperate, searching question. A brilliant, heartfelt smile spreads across the female protagonist's face. She answers his desperate question with absolute certainty. Of course, she declares. Her expression is radiant as she vows that even if he forgets her 100 times, she will simply remind him 100 times more. She looks at him, her smile unwavering, and points out that he has remembered her again, has he not? The male protagonist is stunned into silence. A deep blush creeps across his scarred face, and his visible blue eye widens, completely overwhelmed by her powerful declaration. The male protagonist processes her powerful declaration, his gaze dropping as he murmurs about his memory. He looks at her, his voice low with a mix of uncertainty and hope, and asks if he might hold her just one more time. A soft blush warms the female protagonist's cheeks, and she gives him a breathless yes. He closes the distance between them with a single, deliberate step. Ever so gently, he reaches out, his calloused hand coming to rest against her soft cheek. Her eyes widen at the careful, tender touch, the warmth spreading through her. His thumb gently strokes her cheek, the simple touch sending a wave of heat across her skin. The female protagonist closes her eyes, a deep blush rising as she leans into his warmth. The male protagonist watches her, his own scarred face flushing under her gaze. Suddenly, he jerks back, flinging his hands up in a panic. "This is enough," he stammers, completely flustered. She blinks, confused, asking if it is over already. He warns that if she touches him so freely again, the same intense situation could happen all over again. The female protagonist stammers out in agreement, still lost in the intense moment. A sudden resolve cuts through the male protagonist's flustered state. He takes her hand firmly, pulling her along. He explains that since it is daytime, it is better to introduce her to the villagers. His plan is both heartbreaking and hopeful, as this way, even if he forgets her again, someone will be there to remind him who she is. As they near the village, a shocked voice rings out, shouting in utter disbelief that he brought a woman. Murmurs ripple through the crowd of bandaged men as the male protagonist guides the female protagonist into the encampment. Suspicious eyes follow her every move. So he actually brought someone, one whispers, his companion noting that their cautious leader never trusts just anyone. The whispers turn to pity as they recall the rumors of a young woman cast out for attempting to cure a curse. Poor thing, they mutter, assuming she must be deluded. The female protagonist feels the weight of their judgment, understanding their every thought with painful clarity. It is all the same, another concludes. She was cast out either way. A young boy named Wonyul, a scar marking his cheek, nervously offers a bowl of food. He explains this is the nameless village, a simple offering in a simple place. As the female protagonist thanks him, the air thickens with unseen thoughts. One man's gaze is sharp and resentful, his mind branding her a trickster. He believes their affliction is a divine punishment for a life of wicked indulgence. The female protagonist's expression freezes in horror as they believe this applies even to an innocent child like Wonyul. The man's silent rage grows, condemning her presence. The man's fanatical thoughts crash into the female protagonist's mind. He internally screams that Wonyul is not properly admitting his mistakes, preventing the grandfather from being forgiven. Beside her, the male protagonist's hand clenches into a tight, trembling fist. She stares in disbelief at this reckless behavior. Suddenly, Wonyul shouts, his small body rigid with defiance. "No, I never did such things," he cries. He turns and bolts, running from the table as fast as he can. "Wonyul, wait," the female protagonist calls out, but the boy disappears into the village. Whispers ripple through the bandaged villagers, their thoughts a venomous tide. Maybe the old man was right. If even she could have done something to deserve a curse, then perhaps their own affliction is their fault. It is strange, they muse, that a famed healer cannot solve this particular problem. There must be a reason. Deciding it is improper for a man and woman to be alone, the villagers disperse, their bare feet shuffling away on the dusty ground. The female protagonist watches them go, her expression troubled. The male protagonist breaks the sudden silence, turning to her with a serious gaze. "Tien," he asks, his voice low, "does this happen often?" A breeze rustles Tien's hair as a grim realization settles in her mind. She thinks of the disease, a so-called divine punishment. It was an affliction so visible it could not be hidden, feared for its appearance and its ability to spread through the air, even to children. Her dark thoughts are broken when the male protagonist speaks. Tien, he says, may I look around a bit by myself? She asks if he is sure he will be okay. He confirms with a simple yes. She tells him not to go too far, and he agrees. Sunlight filters through the high forest canopy as the female protagonist walks alone, leaves rustling under her determined steps. A look of discovery crosses her face as she pushes through the undergrowth. As expected, I found it, she thinks, her eyes fixed on something ahead. It is near the water. I thought it would be here. She halts, her expression hardening with resolve. With a swift, fluid movement, she pulls a small, sharp blade from her sleeve. The metal glints in the dappled light as it slides free from its simple wooden sheath. The female protagonist gently wraps a fresh bandage around a man's head, her touch a stark contrast to the hardship in the village. Ah, Tien, he acknowledges her softly. Surrounded by her makeshift apothecary, she explains her discovery. It is willow bark, a gift from the forest that she has crushed into a soothing medicine. A wave of relief washes over the afflicted. Amazing, it hurts so much less, one exclaims gratefully. From a distance, however, suspicion festers. Two men glare, their voices sharp with contempt. That old fool is watching, one seethes, demanding someone chase him away. A man lurches forward, his face twisted in a furious grimace beneath his bandages. This is crazy, he bellows, declaring the medicine a complete fraud that only intensifies his suffering. The crowd murmurs in agreement, their own doubts surfacing. The female protagonist raises a hand, her expression calm as she promises to explain. Crouching before the injured man, she begins a lesson not of medicine, but of food. She speaks of fermentation, a process where helpful elements are encouraged to overwhelm the harmful ones, just as her remedy is designed to do. The female protagonist lifts a small bottle, her voice a calm lesson in the bustling village. She explains the simple science of fermentation, a process that lets harmless elements occupy a space before harmful ones can. These are powerful elements, she clarifies, strong enough to eliminate the bad. With a practiced hand, she wipes the complaining man's inflamed arm with distilled alcohol. He cries out from the sharp sting, but a moment later, his tense body relaxes. His eyes widen in disbelief. The pain is gone, he whispers, the throbbing agony completely vanished. From the edge of the crowd, the male protagonist observes her, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. A warm, golden light bathes the entire village, making the moment feel surreal. What was once a skeptical mob has transformed into a group of believers, their attention fixed solely on her. His single blue eye reflects the scene, a storm of confusion and burgeoning awe swirling within it. A small, knowing smile touches the female protagonist's lips. She does not need to look. She can feel his intense gaze locked right on her. The female protagonist finds the male protagonist standing near a large pile of freshly cut firewood, and she rushes toward him in alarm. Getting closer, she sees the sweat clinging to his silver hair and dripping from his chin. "You are sweating too much," she exclaims, her voice laced with concern. "Tien, do not forget that you are also a patient." He looks down, his piercing blue eye avoiding her worried gaze. He quietly explains that the trees near the village are needed for remedies, so he must travel far away just for firewood. Her gaze sweeps over the distant, dense woods, a quiet worry creasing her brow. She turns back to Tien, holding out a bowl of water as a simple offering. "How about stopping for today and resting?" she asks, her voice soft but insistent. Tien freezes, his scarred cheek flushing at her unexpected kindness. For a moment, she is lost in a memory of their shared past, a time of simply enduring, of waiting for the inevitable end. He finally takes the bowl, murmuring that having a purpose is much better. "Fine," she relents, "but absolutely do not overexert yourself." The heavy axe splits another log with a resounding crack. From the cover of the trees, the female protagonist watches, her breath catching in her throat. The sight of Tien, his bandaged body gleaming with sweat as he works, is overwhelming. A memory surfaces of her own recent efforts, carefully instructing villagers on preparing vital remedies. Back in the present, Tien hoists a staggering load of firewood onto his back, a burden for several men. Seeing his unwavering resolve, A new determination hardens her own gaze as she observes him from afar. A sudden, sharp crack rings out, echoing through the dense woods, and the female protagonist's eyes widen in immediate alarm. Time seems to blur around her as the vibrant sunset quickly melts into a deep, shadowy moonlit night. Driven by a terrible, sinking feeling in her chest, she races through the tall grass towards the flickering light of the hut. She finds Tian hunched over in the dim glow, his body trembling with sheer exhaustion. He pants heavily, muttering under his breath about needing to try just one more time. As she frantically calls out his name, his legs finally give way. He collapses to the ground, and she rushes to his side, her voice laced with absolute panic. Her eyes fly wide with alarm as she screams his name, lunging forward to catch Tian as his body finally gives out. In the warm, flickering light of the hut, she cradles his head in her lap. Her hand trembles as she presses it to his forehead, feeling he is burning with a fever. A knot of regret tightens in her chest. She told him not to overdo it, but the blame settles squarely on her own shoulders. It is her fault, she thinks grimly, for not properly checking on her patient. This cannot happen, not to him. She bites her lip, a wave of self-blame washing over her. She knows he never shows his pain easily. She should not have let her guard down. Her first priority is to bring down the fever, which means removing his sweat-soaked clothes. As she reaches for him, his hand suddenly shoots out, clamping down on her wrist. His eyes are clouded and unfocused. "Who are you?" he rasps, his voice rough. Startled, she explains that she is a doctor from the village, here because she was worried. He dismisses her words as lies, muttering that no one is there. Her hands tremble as she reaches for his sweat-soaked shirt, murmuring that she just needs to examine him. A strange sense of déjà vu washes over her. This situation feels so familiar, just like a scene from one of her novels. As she fumbles with the clasps, his hand suddenly closes over her wrist, stopping her. His feverish gaze softens. Lost in a haze, he thinks her touch feels soft and refreshing. Noticing his chapped lips, she suggests he drink some water. But as she pulls away, his fingers gently find hers, intertwining with them. His hand tightens around her arm as he pleads for her not to go. She tries to soothe him, explaining she is only going to fetch a cup. But the words do not seem to reach him through the fever. "No, that is a lie," he rasps, clinging to the sensation of her touch. He is so lost in the haze, but he can feel the simple human warmth radiating from her. It feels soft, so good. A singular, desperate thought surfaces in his mind, knowing he wants to stay with her. She looks down, concerned, realizing he needs water immediately. She takes the bowl of water and, after a brief pause, brings it to her own lips. She leans down over him, her dark hair creating a private space around their faces. With a soft touch, she presses her lips to his, letting the cool water she held flow between them. The liquid trickles past his fever-chapped lips, a desperate offering to soothe him. Through the haze of his illness, a single, clear thought emerges, feeling truly refreshed. The relief is immediate and profound. His hand instinctively wraps around her waist, holding her close as he thinks to himself how wonderful it feels, savoring the simple, comforting sensation. The simple act of giving him water suddenly shifts into something more. His arm, already around her, tightens with surprising strength, pulling her down with an undeniable force. Lost in his fevered haze, he clings to the connection, a desperate thought echoing in his mind. A little more, just a little more. Her eyes widen in alarm as she is pulled closer, the intensity of the moment catching her completely off guard. "Wait a moment," she gasps, trying to push back gently. "You need to rest." But he does not seem to hear her. His focus narrowed to this desperate closeness. And that wraps up this part. If you watch till the end, you're a legend, and I truly appreciate you. These videos take late nights, focus, and passion to create, so knowing you're here makes it all worth it. If you enjoyed the ride, love the drama, or just live for epic manhwa like I do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell because the next dark twist, it's coming faster than you think.